So, you know what? I have a feeling. Oops. I have a feeling that we're live.
Oh, wow.
It's so
What
good
a
to be
feeling.
alive. So, you've got Mel welcomes Dr. Plamen Russev. And, you know, Plamen, we've had almost 100 guests on the show.
Oh, wow.
And you are our first Bulgarian. So, I'm going to say to you,
I'm honored. Thank you.
Blagodaria ti mnogo.
Todaba.
So, it's so good to see you.
Wonderful to see you.
Yeah, and we'll talk about our own stuff some other time. But now the whole world wants to hear about you and your life. You're an entrepreneur, an innovator, investor. You carry proudly the flag of your country all over the world, and but basically, you're a PhD in medical research.
Indeed, yes. My
So
PhD.
start at the beginning. You're a baby. Your parents. Talk about whatever you like.
What a show. Mel, this is the toughest show ever.
I almost forgot. We have to. You just reminded me. We forgot the jingle.
Oh, I love your jingle. Please,
Oh yeah,
jingle.
have to have the jingle. Have to have the jingle.
Yeah.
And this is in your honor today.
Thank you.
Get a chair, grab a seat, or we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell, you got Mel. When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. SRO, don't you know, you got Mel. Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel.
You've got Mel. Okay.
What a jingle. This is how I will always remember you, Mel. This is how I've seen you. First time I've seen you was with the saxophone, and yeah, it was great. So wonderful.
When did we meet the first? It was years ago.
It was a lot of time ago, a long time. I can't recall, but it was a long. I feel like I know you for my whole life, so it's that's what matters.
And likewise. So go ahead and tell everybody how amazing you are. Don't be shy.
No, you know it's hard to say for someone that has been on all these cameras, etc., to be shy. But I can't say I'm amazing, that's for sure. So I don't want to disappoint you. Should we start with something simpler? I don't know.
Plamen, you can't disappoint me. You can disappoint hundreds of people that are watching you. Before we start, I'm going to thank Dr. Yossi Vardi, who is responsible for our friendship.
That's indeed.
And talk about your childhood. You grew up in Bulgaria. We don't know anything about Bulgaria.
Well, I'll be happy to share. It's not a secret story, actually. It's I grew up in a quite wonderful and poor family, and we've been going through all the hurdles of the time when I grew up. My father ended up as someone taking care of the heat in a kindergarten, so he had to work something, and that was his work before he got pension. So it wasn't an easy life for my parents, that's for sure. I wouldn't say it wasn't easy for me. Actually, it's every kid has a wonderful life as long as being loved by her or his parents. In my life, in my case, I was a very beloved child. But then you start understanding that things are changing when at some moments in school and other places you have a special treatment because of who you are and who are your parents. And what they have, in our case, what they don't have. So it turned out that someone has to study twice, 3 times more. Someone has to work 10 times more in order to make things happen. And so be it. If you have to, you have to. And it's been a turbulent time, actually, because at the moment you start to understand who you are and what might be the world, then came the whole transformation of the society, right? It was the transition between, people mistakenly call it communism. No, it was socialism, right? So between socialism and the form of democracy that was there, like, what is it, like 30 years ago. And that's where you realize that things are, could be different. That's when you realize that all this hard work that you had to do, the fact that you've been kind of the constant rebel, trying to be anti-communist or whatever it is, because that's how family goes, actually makes sense. And you've been ready for something new. And that's what I was. So basically a year after the changes, I was, I believe, like 16 years old. I have quit school, became the first private student in the history of the mathematics school where I was studying. I still remember that night when I was writing the letter to the Minister of Education saying, listen, I have to work. So sorry, but you either put me into the special private type of studying when you go.
One second, Plamen, you had to leave school at 16?
Yeah, I left school. I left school at 16.
In order to work?
Yes, I started working.
But this wasn't connected with the change from communism, or was it?
Well, it was, because beforehand I wouldn't be allowed to. So the change was like,
okay.
There's something you can do, right? So let's do it.
So capitalism gave you permission to be poor.
Something like this, indeed, to work. Yeah, you see, it's funny, but it is. So yeah, I got that permission to become private student, meaning still being able to graduate, but going only for exams, not being like regular going every day to school. And this opened time for me to study and to work at the same time. So I've decided that I will not only graduate one school, but I will graduate 2 more schools. There was the first private school, so I decided I become private student there. And there was another opportunity, so I became a student of an English-speaking school, English school. So I became a private student there. So I had time enough to study and at the same time to work. And I still remember that Christmas when it was like a year or something later, when the VOA Europe started stream broadcasting in Bulgaria. 1992, I believe, was it. Something like this. So I said, well, that's my work. That's what I'm going to do. It was great. It was like a shining star. It was a radio, for God's sake. There was only 1 radio or 2 radios in Bulgaria, and then a private one. That's wow. So I said, let's go there and start working. And the person who was the managing director, he said, oh my gosh, aren't you a student? I said, no, I'm not a student. I'm a private student, so I can work. And then it all started, because beforehand I was just working whatever, it doesn't matter. But this thing was something like, oh, a proper work to work and to commit time and efforts, etc. So I started, I wanted, since day one, I wanted to have my own show, but there was this amazing lady called Elena Bangieva. And Eli said, listen, you have no chances having your own show ever. You speak terribly with accent. Bulgarian with accent was the varnish one. Your pronunciation is terrible.
1 second, you don't have the proper Sofia accent?
I didn't have the proper Sofia accent at all. I had the Varna, me, man, it's like, yeah, I mean, the worst thing in the world, indeed.
You know, there's only 7 or 8 million people in Bulgaria,
Indeed, but you can't.
and they have all these accents. It's crazy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you can't imagine how diverse is the language in Bulgaria. Like the nature, like the regions. It's a lot of diversity. So
Okay, so sorry. So she told you you're never going to have your own radio show.
yes, that's what she told me. But that was like that wasn't fair. So I had to change the way I speak, and I had to do a lot of other things. And also, she was a very well seasoned journalist, and I was like nobody. I wasn't even graduated student.
I mean, you just phoned them. You just went over there. What did you do?
I went over there. I just crashed into the office. So
Great way to get a job. Everybody write that down.
Yeah, I mean, come on. We didn't have phones at that time. Or some of us had like this landline. But that's it. So anyway, yeah, she said no. I said yes, and then we started our this journey of me becoming a journalist in her eyes. Took me a couple of months, and then a couple of months later, I was already reading news, and then a couple of months later, I was having the Plamen show, which was a 3-hour production, 3 hour on Sunday, and then I was having 5 or 6 more shows, and I was making tons of money because that guy, George Nenko, the CEO of that radio, agreed to sign with me external production contract because internally I wasn't accepted very much. But he said, I think you're a star, you will do it, you will make it. I was making tons of money at that
So I said, Plamen, 20 years before I did You've Got Mel, you were doing You've Got Plamen.
Yeah, well,
and you were making money. I'm not making money.
Well, I feel for you. Digital is hard to make money these days. But back then, radio was like the king of the hill. And for a couple of months, I became the biggest advertiser this radio station has ever had. Because I was external producer at the age, I believe, at that moment, 16 or 17, something like this. I was making like a couple of 100,000. It was ridiculous, a lot of money. I don't know what to do with them. For one day, I was making that much money that my father has been making for a year work. It was crazy. It was really crazy.
But one second, when you say hundreds of thousands of dollars or Bulgarian money?
Yeah, at that moment we were calculating in Deutsche Marks, you know, because Bulgaria.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money indeed. Yeah, but it was fancy. Everyone was listening to radio, and my shows were like the most listened shows. I was having a fan club. It was crazy. I was a young chap, and all these things were happening around me. So that's how I fell in love with media, with mass communications. That's how, I mean, it just happened. It wasn't like, wow, I'm going to do this. And no, that was the first job I ever heard of, which sounded like a decent job with some, being normal, working things like stuff. You can say what you're doing. And I started. Before that, I was like singing. I was street musician. I was carrying stuff. I was construction. I was doing everything, whatever it is, just work, whatever.
You were a street musician?
Oh yeah. I've been a street musician for a while. Yeah. So a lot of stuff, and it ended up like a great opportunity, a global network, which I've started working on through VOA Europe. So it was a great beginning. I would say I was very, very grateful. I was very grateful to the people who trusted me at that moment, because I was really, really nobody from nowhere. And having my age, I was. Since then I am hiring kids like the one I'm telling you about, because I really want to give back and to be that one who gave his hand to me at the moment when I needed the most. But the same with Eli Bangieva, because of her need of perfection, I've really changed the way I express myself, the way I speak, I talk, I behave, She was a big challenge for me, but that's why I say we have to be always grateful to the people who challenge us, because that's the only way we can really find our way towards the light and ourselves. So yeah, that's the beginning, Mel. Sorry for the boring story, but that's how it is.
It's not boring at all.
All right.
But so what happened? You made all this money, and then you made the mistake of going to university.
Indeed. How do you know? That's exactly the story. No, actually, at a certain moment, I've decided that this is not proper. This is not how it should be. I should be finally working like a normal person in a company for a salary. That's what I thought. And I started. And it turned out at a certain moment because, but it was fun. I've still learned a lot. I needed some corporate training. I needed to become, because I was like one-man show, right? I was making these tons of money, but it was all on me. My phone, I have everything. I mean, for a couple of months, I've changed everything. I've left my parents. I had my own house, my place to live. I had everything, right? Everything. And I had my office, my phone, it was wireless. Imagine at that moment. I mean, it was crazy. Now I'm not using wireless phones because they are not good for the brain. But back then it was like big thing to do. And so I was having this fancy place and I was making this money, but I said, no, I cannot learn anything. I'm only learning from myself. So I need to start working in a company. I started, and a few months later, there was this crash into the economy. And it turned out I'm working for like $5 per month. And for that was my salary. It was fun. I've learned a lot. They've trusted me a lot. They've sent me to represent that company. First time I went to Cannes for the Cannes Lions to negotiate acquisition of. It was one of the biggest advertising agencies in Bulgaria. Acquisition of a company. So I mean, at the age of like 18, 19 to negotiate for acquisition, it's like, and I was the only one, right? I was the only one in Paris, sorry, in Cannes. Crazy. So I'm internally grateful to all these chances, because you cannot be, you cannot open your sight unless you're given that opportunity or you take it by force. In my case, it was given. I was not taking anything. I was just blessed going places and having great people around me who for some reason trusted me to do some stuff.
Well, listen, you're a snake charmer.
My English is good enough to understand.
No, you're a charming person.
Right.
People love you within like half a second.
Oh,
you just have that, I'm Plamen, love me, and and I mean, and as somebody who knows you, it's also a right thought to love you, but you're not answering my question.
That's because I love back, Mel, and I love you. It's
okay.
I think deep understanding of love is the real meaning of human life. So yeah, I believe in that.
So if you love me, Plamen, answer my question. How did you get to university?
I'm telling you my whole story, Mel.
Oh, in one sentence, how did you get to university and become a PhD?
All right, that's very interesting. Okay, I'll tell you. One day, I've received a letter from my mother. How do you know the right questions? That's I haven't thought of that story for a very, very long time. I've received a letter from my mother. I was barely meeting my parents at that time. You can imagine the whole world was opening for me, a new world, completely new world that you never thought you're ever gonna see in your life. So for all these years, it was like a constant, it was amazing, like a fireworks following you everywhere you go, and more fireworks every time you go new places. So it was fun every night, parties every day, great success, money, everything you want. And at the age of like 16, 17, 18. So I was kind of, I didn't have much time for my parents at that moment, which of course proves how stupid I am, but that's how it was. And then I think a couple of years later, I've received a letter from my mother. By the way, I've graduated these schools and I was taking like 2 years for one, so I can finish school as early as possible. So I graduated a bit earlier than my classmates.
So you can make all that money and have lots of parties.
Yes, indeed. But so I got that.
I know that you're going to answer my question someday.
No, I'm answering you. I mean it. I'm answering. Just give me a minute. Right? I'll reach to that.
You got a letter from your mother.
Yeah. So the question was, how did I start university? And the answer is that I graduated school and I forgot about university. But in Bulgaria, not to have a university degree is treated like you're like a scumbag. You're nobody. You really don't deserve to be mentioned around. And because my parents had never had their high education and they suffered all their life from not having it because they came from very, very poor families. They had to work like hell in order to make money to take care of their kids and stuff. So it was I didn't understand what they mean, but they meant what they meant. So my mother sent me this letter, and I'm not going to say what it was, but at the end it finished. And those wet drops are my tears for you escape for you not following my only dream for you to have a higher education.
Wow.
It might sound like fun now, but it was one of the worst things I could have read from my mother.
Wow.
Knowing what she means and what she meant at that moment. So, Mel, I had to go to university. It wasn't my will at all. I was far away from wasting my time studying things, which at that moment universities were very, 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 I would say, uninteresting. I wouldn't say, but because in the universities, you were studying like political economics and stuff, all this communism, plant economy, nothing to do with reality. And these same professors that were teaching those, they were teaching me new skills, which I was like the king of the hill. I was the symbol of advertising and marketing at that moment. So how can they teach me those things? I was thinking at that moment, of course, I wasn't right. But and anyway, I had to apply. I've applied. I was accepted, and I started. It took me 9 years to graduate. 9 years in a normal course of 4. I was studying 9 years. I didn't have time. I didn't have time. I was working, but I fulfilled my mother's will to be in university. So 9 years later, I graduated the economics university, and it took me quite a while afterwards to do my master's already in things that I really enjoyed. My bachelor was in marketing and management. I've learned things because I was constantly reading, so it's always interesting to read. But the real interesting endeavor was my master's in physics and mathematics and computer science, and then the master's in the PhD in the medical school was the thing that I really wanted to do, because I do believe in happiness. I do believe in magic in happiness, and happiness is the only sure thing about happiness is health. If you're not healthy, you can't be happy, or you have to be extraordinary to be happy, because I know people who are not happy and still they're very happy and they're not healthy. But I decided that all my knowledge and all my global network could be somehow benefiting from having my PhD, particularly in healthcare. And it is again connected to what I'm doing all my life. It's the thesis is digital solutions for managing health and social challenges. So it's all about AI in healthcare, and more about how we can really leverage where we are now, and making the next step, a leap towards the global index of happiness being graced as much as possible.
Okay, but as far as I know you, since I've known you, your big dream is Webbit. It's making Bulgaria a high-tech center, an IT center of the world. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is your big crusade, isn't it?
I am a believer that there is, I don't believe in the scarcity of resources. The Keynes theory is very old-fashioned, if you ask me. I do believe in the abundance of opportunities. That's why when people tell me we have competitors, or you are competing with us, or I mean anything with compete, I swear, I really don't understand it. I do not agree to understand it. It's abundance of opportunities. It's the humankind who is killing the humankind by the way we produce our energy. And forget about the humankind, we're killing the future. And I believe that if we harness the technological development the way we can and we should, then everyone will really understand that it is all about abundance of opportunities, that there is nothing to compete for. And it's all about collaboration. It's all about making it possible. It's all about being together, loving each other, and making our lives better. So saying that, I've committed my life on making it possible. And the only way to make it possible is through technology. So I became a technology ambassador. I decided that this is something that could add value. And of course, I've started with my country. Actually, let's now go back in history, because history goes very interestingly. My first real bankruptcy was in 1997, 1998, when overnight the dollar ratio in Bulgaria went from 50 to 3,700 per night. From 50 level for $1 to 3,750 something level for $1 overnight. At that moment, I was back to my entrepreneurship journey. Actually, I've never been away from it, only these few years in the very beginning. And I had my contract with Columbia TriStar, representing Columbia TriStar on the Balkans for their TV shows, Take 5, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and some others. And I did this after I've convinced a few friends to lend me some money. It was kind of $1 million plus. And I've signed that contract, and of course you pay in dollars. And at that very moment, the dollar went crazy, like 100-fold, almost like 80-fold. So you can't really plan your business with that fluctuation. And of course, I went bankrupt. In the meantime, I was producer. I was taking care of guests. I was storyteller. I was everything for these shows. I've even created my own Wheel of Fortune because it was too expensive to buy it originally from Columbia TriStar. So they allowed me, being in this poor country, to produce it myself. So 6 months I was with the screwdrivers and stuff doing it. But
it's very good to do it yourself.
Yes, you know how these things are done now. There are no surprises for me, I swear. So
it's a learning curve or a learning circle for you.
Indeed. So at the end, I was very disappointed with media. I said, well, $1 million later, in owned money, and then you own them to friends, and you're absolutely bankrupt, no money in the bank account, you own 1 million, and there's no light in the tunnel. I had to do something. So that's where I turned to technology. So actually, back in 1999, I said, nothing old is anymore for me. I need to go some new places. I need to find my own way. And technology was very new. I mean, 1999, for God's sake, you remember? There was technology was when I was saying tech, it was crazy. People were thinking I'm doing like some
music
things, some weird things. Oh yeah, there's a good story about that with the first Webbit. So I started with technology. I started building my company. I built a platform which was at that moment using timekeeping plus a few algorithms, so you can trace the how effectively the efficiency of your programmers and developers. So we started in 1999, 2001, I've opened my first offices around the world, London, Czech Republic, and Switzerland. And it was growing quite well. We were having great customers, governments. New Zealand, we opened Pure NZ. We were working with some of the biggest travel agencies in UK. So they opened the markets, the travel and tourism boards for some countries. So it started growing, and I needed more and more software to manage these processes. So we ended up at a certain moment with around 600 people working under my management and developing software for companies around the world. I was living in UK and in Switzerland and places, and I managed to exit. And that's when I realized I'm not happy. Because when you work, you don't have time to think if you're happy or not happy. You just work like 24/7. But when you get your bank account full, then you say, "Oh, am I happy?" And no, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy because I was away from my family, from my friends. For many years, I was traveling around the world. I was living in different places. I was immigrant, right? So that was the moment I decided I should go back to my country and start giving back to that society that created me, and to the people who gave me these skills and opportunities, or the will to survive, if you may, because every challenge is a driving force. So I decided I come back to Bulgaria, and I start giving back to the community. And Webbit was this. Actually, first, before Webbit, I've established an education institution with governmental license for professional bachelor degree in digital. I wanted to start training people, teach them what I knew and what people around me. So I've attracted the best of the best in Bulgaria. Great people, still great friends with them. Those were the early days, dinosaurs of digital in Bulgaria. And we started teaching, started giving back as much as possible. And it was great because I kind of reconnected with the ecosystem. And I realized that regardless of how amazing Bulgaria is, regardless of the fact that Bulgaria has more medals in physics and mathematics than Germany and France combined, and you think Bulgaria is like 7 million, Germany and France is a bit more, and then there's some numbers. So you can imagine how rich pool of talent is Bulgaria. And Bulgaria was the biggest producers of CDs in the world. Sometimes Taiwan was producing more. The first ever robot produced by ABB was called Robot Beroe, because it was a joint venture between Beroe Robotics in Bulgaria and ABB, and stuff like this. So having all this as a history in technology, innovation, I mean, the calculating machine the calculator is patented on Bulgarian name and stuff like this. Jonathan Nasov is a naturalized Bulgarian living in the US, one of the fathers, if not the father of the computer. And all this being there, and people were selecting digital providers or solutions the way they choose a car just because it's green. So I realized that we need to do things. We need to really do a lot in order to, and that was the time when the talent is completely fleeting away from Bulgaria. That was the year Bulgaria became part of EU. So every single beautiful, beautiful, brave mind was going somewhere. Germany, US, UK, anywhere, going somewhere. So we had to do something. And there were not many people like me, I mean, I was referred like successful Bulgarian. Forget about how successful it is in a small country. Success has different measures. So I said, all right, who if not me, and when if not now? That's the thing when people say this and they have to do it.
That's actually a Jewish expression.
Is it? I'm not surprised.
Well, you know, we're very similar at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, Bulgaria has some great stories about our similarity. Do you know that during the World War II, Bulgaria was the only country in the entire world who saved all the Jews, all of them?
Yes, I don't think that there is a Jew who doesn't know this.
40,000.
This is only one of the reasons that that we love Bulgaria so much.
Maybe that's why we love you back so much.
Yeah, very brave country. And also, you know, we have Bulgarian Jews in Israel.
Yeah, Aide Maccabi Yafo.
Yeah,
this is something that Yossi Vardi taught me. So
yeah, that's history. That's history. Yossi Vardi isn't history, but Maccabi Yafo is. But the Bulgarian Jews are very much loved in Israel. Very clever, wonderful sense of humor. Yeah. So and great cheese. Okay, so keep going.
We were talking about Bulgaria. So yeah, we started slowly, and then I've already had my global network. I've already had some success stories to rely on, and I've used them. You know, I would say very selfishly, because I said, you need to come. You're my friend. You need to come to Bulgaria. There was not very much of reasoning for people to come to Bulgaria for Webbit, because there was nothing. I mean, nothing for them. At that moment, talents were more, I mean, even Romania was perceived, when I say even Romania, I don't mean bad, but I mean, Bulgarians were having very high self-esteem, how technological they are, because during the socialism, Bulgaria was like the intelligence of the bloc, right? It was full of technological spice, was going, IBM creates computer, 2 weeks later, Bulgaria creates computer. I mean, I was having Pravets 8, which was like 8-bit computer. I was programming at the age of like, I don't know, like 8, 9, 10, something like this. So we were really very advanced. But Bulgaria was not even perceived as a talent pool. Forget about anything else. I mean, economic-wise, I mean, it was at that moment, I believe, 20 billion GDP. Who should care? Or 30 billion, something like this. What kind of market is this? So no real reason for anyone to come from anywhere. But I was like, hey, you come and we throw a party. That was the only one I can say, right? Nothing, you cannot sell your country anyway. So it started back in 2007 was the days were the days when we came up with this idea with my wife Aniela and a few friends to create Webbit. Don't ask me the name. It was, I mean, it was crazy. You know, you should be really careful how you call your babies. But this is another story. It was so old-fashioned, for God's sake. Web. I mean, who thinks about web? Huh? But we called it Webbit, and we started. So 2008 was the preliminary edition to test the grounds. 2009, the first large-scale Webbit, 1,000 people. I've invested a lot of money in advertising. Billboards, because there was no digital advertising at that moment. Billboards everywhere in Central Eastern Europe, and saying, hey, come, we meet the whole world, and Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe is going to be the center. There was nothing like this. I mean, nobody cared about Central Eastern Europe in general. Well, forget about Germany and Austria, let's say Eastern Europe. And so I said, we will do a place where we meet the ecosystems and build competitive advantage. Allow locals to connect with internationals and start working and achieving their dreams without need to leave their families. Because for me at that moment, and still is, happiness is when you are with your family and friends. That's what the real happiness is. Everything else is success. So I said, you should be successful while you are being happy, and I can help you. We will do this for you. So I started inviting people. And that was quite amazing. A lot of people obviously turned out to trust my invitation for parties, and showed up.
Because you're charming.
Well, you say so. Thank you so much. Very generous.
So Plamen, okay, it's been so interesting, but we're running out of time. So you built Webbit from 1,000 people who came to have a party?
No, from less. Because
Less than 1,000?
Out of these thousands, actually half of them wanted their money back after they came to Webbit, because the tech festival, as we advertised it, turned out to be, in their thoughts, a music festival. And they were expecting DJs on the stage. Imagine their disappointment, where people like Blake Chandley, at that moment Vice President Facebook, nowadays TikTok, and some others, showed on stage and started talking boring things about digital. So it was total disaster. They say, give us our money back. So we had to do a huge party at night in order for somehow, it was anyway my investment.
Plamen, you should have spoken to Jeff Pulver.
Yeah, well,
because he always had the right recipe.
I know. Well, I've done so many mistakes on my way. So this is one of them.
Next time, speak to Jeff. Anyway, so Webbit now, before the corona, how many people came?
Before the corona, the last Webbit was 15,000 people from 120 different countries. And we had 27 cities bidding to host Webbit in their own city the previous year, which I believe is a world record of an official bid of cities bidding. There was even interest from Tel Aviv, but I told Yossi, I'm not coming there. This is your place to be.
Yeah, you don't want to compete with Yossi Vardi, right?
I don't want to compete with anyone. Again, that's not my lifestyle. That's not my life. I live my life for making things.
So, Plamen, so now in the days of the COVID, I mean, Webbit was a major thing for you, right?
Webbit is a not-for-profit foundation, which we are funding from my family wealth from the very beginning. It grew to one of the world's biggest festivals, the world's biggest startup challenge with over 4,500 startups.
Webbit doesn't make money?
1 billion award. It's a not-for-profit. So basically, all the startups that come to Webbit are funded by us. We select them very carefully. We do this since 2010. We were the first to start doing this. I was called crazy when I started doing this in our world, to connect enterprise and startups in one way. Currently, COVID has pushed us into a pivoting big time. Obviously, there was no Webbit this year. It was supposed to be in Valencia. Now we're open new call for new city hosts, but it's indefinite when will be held. We'll have to wait a little bit for the vaccine to see what the effect. But in the meantime, it turned out that we are bigger and stronger than we have ever been. Because last time our biggest hall was accommodating around 4,000, 4,500 people. And then we had 5-7 different halls, but this was the biggest. Like, you see 5,000 people in front of you and you talk to them. Then this whole situation pushed us into pivoting into digital. And I was always working on making Webbit more digital because it's a long story, but technology was needed, right? So we were ready already to start the virtual platform for Webbit, which was supposed, regardless of COVID, of course, which was supposed to give more value for the people who come to Webbit, to meet, to network, to find each other better, and to do more successful business together, because that's what it is. It's innovation, startups, investments, and better world. So COVID just accelerated this, and we were the first in the world to start virtual events at our scale. On 4th of April was the first virtual Webbit. Since then, 50 plus events later and 1 million virtual attendees later, we're the world's biggest. And the platform turned out to be even more valuable than what we were building. For the past months, we've virtualized hundreds of events. This includes the first virtual United Nations General Assembly SDG Action Zone. We've been recently hosting the Pope and 70 heads of state as part of the Climate Ambition Summit 2020. We've been hosting tens of millions on that platform. It's called the Virtual Show, TVS Events. So it turned out, it became a spin-off currently, which is skyrocketing, growing like crazy with so many new events that we virtualize, and we make it possible for people from different, very different types of industries to reach out to their markets, to reach out to the people they want to reach out, to talk to them.
So is this an initiative that still belongs to the not-for-profit?
No, it's a completely different company, which I became investor into and developed because initially it was only a story I needed for Webbit as a customer, but then I grew it up as a completely separate entity.
So Plamen, so you keep making money.
Sorry?
You keep making money.
What do you mean? I think everyone should produce and make money out of his production.
Oh, I thought, you made a ton of money and you said, okay, now I'm going to give all my money. I'm going to give it all back to Bulgaria. And here you are making even more money. There's nothing wrong with that.
Actually,
as long as you help people like me, you see.
Actually, Bulgaria is my home country, but our scope is the world, and our commitment is to the world and to the humankind. And yes, we try to add value to as many as possible. And currently, we are the pioneers and one of the leaders in virtualizing experiences. It's not only events, it's education. We virtualize like literally everything currently. And yes, Webbit is most probably next year, Webbits, there will be like over 100, 120 virtual Webbits. So imagine there was only one Webbit per year. Now there are, only this year, we hit like 60. So we have 60 times growth. And next year, there will be like 120 digital Webbits, virtual Webbits. And there will be a fantastic Webbit Festival 2021, whether it will be hybrid or virtual, we will still have to see, but we have the world's best and most advanced events virtualization platform now, so it's not going to be such a big challenge. So
incredible.
Things are developing. It's only one key word, my dear friend. It's adoption. And then the other very important keywords are values and commitment and consistency and resilience. And this will be nothing without innovation. So I believe that all your fantastic community listening to this, if from all these stories that you made me, I didn't know what you're going to ask me. I guess that's your fantastic charm and the way you make things around you. It's always a magic. But I guess after all these personal stories that you asked me to share, if there is something that I would like the people who are now watching us to hear and to maybe to use, is that the times that we live in definitely require more and more of these resilience, trust, and innovation. And all these without the values that really matter, the values that really add value to people's lives. Really, is bullshit. It doesn't make sense. If you cannot change at least one person's life for better, support, and why do you do it? Why do you really do it? So I really do believe that that's the only reason that light, and as a good friend, acquaintance of mine said, that the deep understanding of love is these two things are the real task of the humankind. Everything else is total vanity.
Well, this has been incredible. But another thing, I know that you can sing. And now I'm going to ask you something really serious. Do you like the Beatles?
I love Beatles.
What's your favorite Beatles song?
Well, I have many of them, but Imagine is one of them. And yeah, Let It Be. I grew up with that song. All the social unrests in Bulgaria were accompanied by Let It Be. So it's
So,
kind of the symbol of freedom in my head.
Plamen, this has been wonderful. You're much younger than me, but I'm going to ask you to adopt me. And I don't
don't need me to adopt you. I love you anyway.
No, I know, but I'm getting love from so many teachers in Bulgaria, and I don't know what to do about it, and I don't speak Bulgarian. So I need you to adopt me. Now, for the first time, I would like you to sing. This is a great opportunity, you see.
Oh wow! All right.
To sing "Let It Be" for all of our listeners.
Gosh, that was interesting. Wait a second. All right, why not? You are full of surprises, so let me see what I can do.
All right.
Let's see if this one can stick here. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary come to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. In my hour of darkness, she's standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be. Yeah.
You're a real pro.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said you're a real professional.
No. You're the professional. I'm just trying to follow your requests. So you made me embarrass myself in front of your community family, but I love it.
you, I think, were one of the top performers on the show so far.
Oh, you should choose your performers more carefully.
Oh, it was great. And as we both know, music is something that's from the heart. Yes. And you have a lot of heart. Plamen, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and to all of our friends, old and new, in Bulgaria. And I'm going to bother you next week to see whether we can turn our friendship into something that is useful.
Thank you so much, Mel. It's such a pleasure spending time with you. When you invited me, I told you that the last time we did it, it was in your apartment or a place which you were having, and we were singing and we were having so much fun. So at the end of the day, it's not about business. It's not about anything. It's about friendship. It's all about our hearts and our souls being connected in a
beautiful I don't plan to do business with you.
All right. So
I plan to lose money with you.
No. If we do business, we are not going to lose money, my dear friend, because this means that we are not going to be sustainable. It will be a waste of resources, and this is wrong. We should.
I've been losing money for 7 years.
All right. The only problem is the lack of one resource called time. I wish I can do business and I can support each and every endeavor of a friend everywhere in the world.
Listen, that's because
my best to
you left university, you see. If you were a university professor, you'd have lots of time.
Yes.
And I just got fired, so now I have even more.
Oh, wow.
No, it's okay. We'll talk about it some other time. Plamen, have a wonderful year, and keep bringing innovation and joy and good vibes to so many thousands and millions of people.
Thank you. I can't imagine who could have fired you, for God's sake. What kind of person this could be, but I will find out.
It's called academia.
I know, yeah. Sometimes roads go different way. I know.
Okay, so listen, we will have a conversation when you have some spare time for me. I'm glad that you found time to be on the show.
Always for you.
You're a remarkable person, and I'm just honored to know you.
Thank you
Have
so
a
much.
wonderful year.
Ciao.
Love to you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.